What do you think about that? Like talking about the weight at 154?
Well, I wouldn't worry about that. I feel stronger than him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel that I punched harder than him. I felt as if I hurt him many of times.
I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him or, you know,
no, I understand
things like that, but
right.
I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame with the...
Errol Spence Jr. came into the fight against Terence Crawford with 3 of the 4 major welterweight world titles, an undefeated record, and years of dominance in the division. Many believed this was a true 50-50 fight, the biggest welterweight showdown since Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao.
I would never want to fight him coming off an accident like that. Because when I beat him,
Right.
then y'all gonna say it was because of the accident.
Right.
He fight. He beat Danny Garcia. I was in the crowd. I said, nah, he can't beat me. That's the first time I seen Spence fight live. I said...
So you knew then when you seen that?
I'm like, yeah, because you know it's different on TV
for sure.
than when you watching it up close in person.
However, what happened in the ring painted a different picture, one of complete dominance by Crawford and an unraveling of Spence's game in a way no one had ever seen before. For years, Spence had built his reputation as one of the most fundamentally sound and physically imposing welterweights in the sport. His ability to control distance with a stiff jab, his relentless pressure, and his exceptional body punching had led him to victories over top-tier fighters like Kell Brook, Shawn Porter, Danny Garcia, and Yordenis Ugas.
Yeah.
He unified.
Yeah, was it?
He had 3.
Yeah.
He had the
but he didn't
WBC,
unify all 4.
WBA,
He wasn't
IBF.
undisputed.
Huh?
He wasn't undisputed.
He wasn't. No, but what I'm saying is they already called him a weight bully, right? He beat Kell Brook coming off of a loss, an eye injury. You know, he beat Shawn Porter.
In all fairness, he had to go over there to get that.
However, Crawford exposed weaknesses that had gone largely unnoticed throughout Spence's career, flaws that were not just technical, but possibly a sign of long-term wear and tear. Crawford's performance was a masterclass in timing, accuracy, and adaptability. From the very first round, it was clear he had a plan to neutralize Spence's key weapons. Spence, known for his stiff jab, was unable to establish it as a meaningful tool because Crawford's counters were so sharp. Whenever Spence extended his jab, Crawford was already timing his counter right hooks and straight left hands, catching Spence cleanly. The first major shift in momentum happened in the second round when Crawford knocked Spence down with a sharp right counter. It was the first time in Spence's professional career that he had been knocked down, and though he quickly got back to his feet, it was an ominous sign of what was to come. Spence had been hurt before in fights, most notably against Kell Brook and Yordenis Ugas.
He didn't do the things that his daddy told him to do. What are you talking about? Even his daddy said it. Even his daddy said it.
You butthurt that I got the
Even his daddy said it.
You butthurt.
Even Kell Brook, he was already broken.
So was he broken when you fought?
No, he wasn't broken.
How come
I broke the other eye.
He came off
I broke the other eye. Yeah, that's how I got broke. That's how I got broke.
He came off a stoppage and then he fought you
What does it matter?
months prior.
What does it matter?
So was he broken or not?
No, he wasn't broken. No, he wasn't broken.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
What you talking about? I had the same surgery he had, and what happened? So what they say about you then? You fight me then?
I'm gonna break the other eye.
So what they say?
But this was different. Crawford was not just hurting him, he was breaking him down methodically. As the fight progressed, Spence's lack of head movement became a glaring problem. He had always been a fighter who relied on his high guard and ability to absorb punches rather than evade them. Against lesser opponents, this worked. Against a sharpshooter like Crawford, it was a disaster. By the middle rounds, Spence's face was swollen, and he was bleeding from multiple areas. The punishment was accumulating rapidly, and Crawford showed no signs of slowing down. One of the most telling moments of the fight came in the 7th round when Spence was knocked down twice in quick succession.
Hold his head up, it's a learning experience. You just bounce back from it. It's about how you come back and how you show people that, that happened young in your career. And
The first knockdown was a result of a vicious combination in which Crawford landed a series of short, compact punches, catching Spence completely off balance. The second knockdown was even more brutal, a crushing right hook that sent Spence stumbling backward, barely able to stay on his feet. By this point, the fight had become one-sided. Spence was still pressing forward, still trying to mount an offense, but he was walking into a buzzsaw. Every time he threw a jab, Crawford slipped and countered. Every time he tried to get inside, Crawford tied him up, turned him, and reset the distance. Spence, who had always been the one dictating the pace in his fights, was now completely at the mercy of Crawford's superior ring IQ. The 9th round was the final nail in the coffin. Crawford unleashed a relentless assault.
The big question was, is he gonna come out orthodox? Is he gonna come out southpaw? I'm tripping because I was talking to one of your guys after the fight in the locker room, and he said, before y'all came out to fight, you looked at him and you looked at Shakur and you said, hey, what y'all think I should do?
Yeah, because in my mind, I want to fight. Right. I want to fight. But given the circumstances that he haven't had nobody that's, got the confidence to come out there and just be like, okay, well, even the skills to say, all right, let me see how you gonna take a punch to the chin. Let me see how you gonna take a punch to the body. Let me see how you gonna react when you can't bully somebody around.
Good, I just fed the dog.
Okay. So my mind was, it was racing a little bit. And I was like, man, how should I come out? And it was like, man, just come out boxing.
Landing 9 consecutive unanswered punches. Spence, unable to defend himself, was left wobbling on his feet, and the referee had no choice but to stop the fight. Crawford's dominance was reflected in the numbers. According to CompuBox, he landed 50.1% of his total punches, an incredibly high accuracy rate, while Spence landed only 20% of his shots. The most telling statistic was in the power punches. Crawford landed 60.1% of his power shots, while Spence, who had built his reputation as a physically imposing puncher, landed only 33 power shots in the entire fight. After the fight, Spence admitted that Crawford was simply the better fighter that night. He acknowledged that his timing was off and that he struggled to establish his jab.
In the fight,
Yeah.
but I just felt like, he came prepared and he was ready and he fought a good fight.
Yeah.
He was awkward. He was patient. He was determined. He stuck to his game plan, and he did what he had to do.
So it's something that I wouldn't change for nothing, and I'm definitely open to the rematch, and hopefully it'll be at 154 pounds.
However, he also pointed to weight as a factor, revealing that he had been struggling to make 147 pounds for years. Many analysts had speculated about this before the fight, as Spence had looked drained at the weigh-in. The question then became, was this simply a bad night for Spence, or was it a sign of decline? To answer that, we have to look at Spence's recent history. After his 2019 fight against Sean Porter, a close but competitive victory, Spence was involved in a near-fatal car accident. He miraculously survived without any major broken bones, but was sidelined for over a year. In 2022, he was again forced to sit out due to an eye injury that required surgery. Between 2019 and 2023, Spence fought only 3 times. In contrast, Crawford remained active and continued improving his skills.
People say, oh, well, maybe it was the weight or whatever the case is. What do you think about that? Like, talking about the weight at 154?
Well, I wasn't worried about that. I felt stronger than him.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I punched harder than him. I felt as if I hurt him many of times.
Many believe the inactivity and physical toll of the accident played a role in Spence's loss. However, others argue that Crawford was simply the superior fighter and that even a prime Spence would have struggled against him. Spence immediately called for a rematch after the fight, citing the rematch clause in their contract. However, the rematch would likely take place at 154 pounds, a weight class where Spence feels more comfortable.
Like, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him or,
I understand
things like that, but
right.
I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame with the...
Whether a rematch is a good idea is another debate. From a strategic standpoint, a rematch would likely yield the same result. Crawford's dominance wasn't just about weight, it was about skill. His ability to read Spence's patterns, take away his best weapons, and control the pace of the fight was a testament to his superior boxing IQ. Moving up in weight may help Spence feel stronger, but it won't solve the fundamental problem of Crawford's ability to outbox him. For Spence, the best path forward might be to move up to 154 and rebuild. Potential fights against opponents like Sebastian Fundora, Jermell Charlo, or Tim Tszyu could give him a chance to prove himself at a higher weight before considering a rematch with Crawford.
He got caught. He should have boxed a little bit more, but things happen. You gotta learn from it. Setting traps, has crazy power that he believes in. And has a great chin too because he's a guy. He'll let you get out punches.
As for Crawford, his future remains uncertain. He has hinted at a move up to 168 pounds to challenge Canelo Alvarez, a fight that would be historic. If he were to defeat Canelo, he would become a 3-division undisputed champion, a feat never before accomplished in boxing history.
Along my career, I've been criticized and people have taken credit away from me just to try to diminish my accomplishments, just off of pure hate. So what would they be able to say with me going up 2 weight classes?
However, the challenge is enormous. While Crawford has proven he can dominate at welterweight, jumping up 2 weight classes to face a physically larger, stronger Canelo is a different test. Canelo has faced some of the best fighters in multiple divisions and possesses a level of experience that would make him a tough opponent even for someone as skilled as Crawford. Regardless of what happens next, the Spence versus Crawford fight will be remembered as a defining moment in boxing history. It was a fight that settled years of debate, cemented Crawford's legacy, and forced Spence to reevaluate his future. The welterweight division has a new king, and the rest of the boxing world will be watching closely to see what comes next.